So let's dive into it. Guys, my first question is, I teach a lot, I have a lot of conferences, and people come up and they go, what is HDR, right? And I find that I initially have that conversation that's like, well, it's not the HDR that you think about from photographic workflows. It's not taking in multiple exposures, merging them together, and still working within a SDR display. I want the elevator pitch from each of you about what HDR means to you. What is HDR in that elevator pitch kind of paragraph? Let's start with you.
Elevator pitch. Well, I'll say what I told to my DP because I'm working on putting together pre-production for a pilot episode of an action TV series that I'm doing. And I told my DP, I want to do this in HDR. I have seen it, I am convinced it is awesome. And he's like, so what's HDR? And it basically, for me, the two biggest sells are, it gives you more sparkle and pop, it gives you more contrast, and it just gives you sharpness like you can't believe if you can watch quality HDR on a quality HDR set. More importantly than that for me, it gives you more color volume, which is something that you don't get in 709. Who's here? Who's a colorist here? Or has adjusted color? When you have cop lights and you need to desaturate them and it's depressing, you're like, hey client, look over there. All right, now it's legal, how's it? Sure, fine. You don't have to do that. And so you get more sharpness, you get more pop, and you get more color volume. That to me is the story, personally. Just more creative freedom.
Cool. Ron, what's your pitch on what HDR means?
Well, it's basically building on what Alexis said. I think to summarize what you were saying, it basically makes things more lifelike. It is, when people look at HDR sets, good HDR sets, it's a window into the real world. It's the way that things really look. It allows you to see specular highlights. It allows you to see detailed shadows. And it really, it does something with a television that you can do looking at the real world with your eyes. And for me, that's mostly what it's about. And there's a lot of technical detail. Of
course, we'll get into
it, but we'll let Joel do that.
For me, because I've been actually asked this before, and for me, it's almost like you really can't pinpoint HDR as one thing. I always say it's an actual pipeline or a workflow. There's many facets to it. It's not just the display, it's not just the camera, it's not just the grade, it's everything that flows between it. And of course, the final result is that beautiful poppy image that you can't get in Rec 709. But for me, it is a workflow, a pipeline, in a more broader kind of sense.
Okay.
I get asked this a lot as well, and generally I prefer to tell you what HDR is not.
Okay, fair enough.
And HDR is not a brighter picture. That is like, seriously guys, it's not about making things brighter. It's about having a higher dynamic range. But I think that the easiest way to explain it, without using SIMD terms, because they're boring, is actually that, like, in what we're now calling SDR, you've got between your eyes and the monitor, or whatever, the capture the display, there's like this little tiny, tiny pipe that's really just like a little straw. And you take all of this information of the world that you're seeing and all of this detail and everything that you can see if you have decent eyesight. And then you squeeze it through this tiny, tiny little straw. And what you get at the other end is, not much, right? Compared to what we're actually seeing. Well, HDR actually opens that up and puts it through a bit more of a pipe than a straw. And I mean, the guys from Dolby will be like, bigger pipe, we've got 4,000 tons, And if you've got a laser projector, then you've got a giant pipe. But
maybe I should have separated this.
You're gonna be like, my pipe's bigger than your pipe, yeah. But the thing is that you're not cutting off as much in the display. You're not clipping it off at the top or the bottom or anywhere else really as much as you would before. So it's more of a bridge between reality and what you see on screen.
All right, Robert, obviously you're quite involved in HDR workflows these days. What's your elevator pitch?
Well, I'm going to say the exact same thing everybody else has said.
That's fine.
I'm going to use some different words.
Cool.
In that the way I like to think about it is, as Katie has said, we've always had a very restricted palette in which to work in, and we've had to force content into that palette. And as we've moved from film to digital, we lost a little of that palette because film gave us a bigger palette than we were able to do in our digital pipelines, whether that's digital cinema or home. And as digital cinema cameras got better and better, wider and wider dynamic range, bigger color gamuts, we had better raw processing power and everything else, we had the ability of capturing those images like we did in film cameras back in the digital pipeline, but then we were restricted back to your straw. Exactly.
Right.
So the different words I would use is that HDR, and I would include HDR and Wide Colour Gamet together, and that's, a lot of people have referred to that as an enhanced dynamic or extended dynamic range to include both the color dynamic range and the contrast dynamic range. It's about giving a bigger palette to the artist. And as Katie was saying with the light levels, it's not about having to use the entire palette. A piece of that palette is right for your story in your image at that moment. And the ideal is to provide as much palette as necessary for you to tell your story in an accurate way. And that's what HDR is.
Gotcha. And Joel, you're obviously interacting with a lot of the standards that are out there. You probably have a lot of technical information to share in just a moment. But what is HDR to you?
Well, for me, it is a lot about what has been said before. It was kind of probably from last year, but
I was just hoping somebody would say it's just awesome.
Yeah, that's actually really more like what I say, because a lot of times I'm interacting with people that haven't seen it yet and haven't had any experience with it. And so for me, I try and just communicate that it is, vibrant, colorful, better image than you're used to seeing. And Katie stole my pipe metaphor, because that's actually the one that I like to use too. In that when, we've been capturing with film cameras and digital cameras this much wider dynamic range, and we've always been squeezing it down into this little pipe that we've had to deliver, whether it was a film projector or a CRT display or even the latest fancy OLEDs. We have to squeeze it down to be able to reproduce it. And what HDR does is gives us a bigger, broader pipe so we can deliver beautiful, vibrant colors that add depth and clarity to images that you just don't get without this larger pipe.
Awesome. No, that sounds great.